You wake up with good intentions. Today is going to be different. You'll wake up early, go to the gym, finally finish that project, stop wasting hours on your phone, maybe even start building the life you've been dreaming about for years. For a few minutes, you actually believe it. Then something happens. You hit the snooze button.
You tell yourself you'll start after breakfast, then after lunch, then tomorrow, and before you know it, another day disappears. Another opportunity slips away. Another promise you made to yourself quietly dies. At some point, you stop asking, why didn't I do it? Instead, you begin asking something much more dangerous. What's wrong with me?
Maybe you've asked yourself that question. Maybe you've looked at successful people and wondered why discipline seems effortless for them, while every small task feels like climbing a mountain for you. Maybe you've watched hundreds of motivational videos, filled notebooks with goals, downloaded productivity apps, read books about success, and still found yourself right back where you started.
So eventually, you reach the only conclusion that seems to make sense. I'm just lazy. But what if that's the biggest lie you've ever believed? Because here's something most people never realize. Lazy people don't spend their nights feeling guilty about wasted potential. Lazy people don't constantly search for ways to improve. Lazy people don't feel frustrated because they know they're capable of more. If you're watching this video, chances are you've already imagined a better version of yourself hundreds of times. You've pictured the healthier body, the successful career, the business, the financial freedom, the confidence, the peace, the discipline. You can seize that version of yourself so clearly, yet every day feels like you're somehow moving farther away from it. Why? If you truly want a better life, why can't you seem to take consistent action? The answer has almost nothing to do with laziness. You're stuck. And being stuck is one of the most misunderstood problems in modern life. Because being stuck doesn't look dramatic. It doesn't announce itself. There's no alarm telling you your life is drifting away. Instead, it quietly disguises itself as comfort, as routine, as taking a break, as starting next week, as I'm just tired today. One excuse never seems dangerous, but excuses don't destroy your future overnight. They do it one tiny decision at a time. One extra episode, one more hour scrolling, one missed workout, one delayed phone call, one unfinished assignment, one ignored opportunity. Each choice feels insignificant, but over months, over years, those tiny moments become your identity. One day, you wake up and realize you've been living the same week over and over again. Different dates, same life. And that's when people start believing they have no potential. But potential doesn't disappear. It gets buried. Imagine a brand new sports car. Powerful engine, beautiful design, built to move at incredible speed. Now, imagine parking it inside a garage for 10 years. Dust begins to cover it, the tires lose air, the battery dies. Eventually, someone walks in and says, "This car doesn't work." But that's not true. The engine was never the problem. It simply hasn't been moving. That's exactly what happens to millions of people. They mistake inactivity for inability. Just because you haven't been progressing doesn't mean you can't. Just because you've been standing still doesn't mean you've lost your potential. The problem isn't who you are. The problem is where you've been mentally parked. Think about a river. As long as water keeps flowing, it stays fresh. The moment movement stops, the water becomes stagnant. Mosquitoes gather,
algae grows, everything begins to decay.
Your mind works the same way. Growth requires movement. Not perfection, not motivation. Movement. Even the smallest action creates momentum. But when movement stops, overthinking begins. Self-doubt begins. Comparison begins. Fear begins. Suddenly, every goal feels impossible because you've spent so long standing still that taking even one step feels overwhelming.
And here's the cruel irony. The longer you wait until you feel ready, the harder it becomes to start. Most people believe action comes after motivation. They think successful people wake up inspired every morning. That's a fantasy. In reality, motivation usually comes after action, not before it. A runner doesn't become motivated and then start running.
They start running, and after a few minutes, their body begins producing energy. A writer doesn't wait until inspiration magically appears. They sit down, write terrible first sentences, and eventually the ideas begin flowing. Confidence works exactly the same way. Nobody becomes confident before doing difficult things. Confidence is earned after surviving difficult things.
That's why waiting to feel like it is one of the biggest traps you'll ever fall into. Your emotions were never designed to lead your life. Imagine letting your hunger decide your finances, or letting your mood decide whether you brush your teeth. Sounds ridiculous. Yet every day, millions of people let temporary emotions decide permanent outcomes. I don't feel like studying. I don't feel like working. I don't feel like exercising. I don't feel motivated. Those feelings are real, but they don't deserve the driver's seat. Because feelings change by the hour. Your future depends on decisions, not moods. Here's another truth that nobody likes hearing. Comfort is addictive. Not because it's enjoyable, but because it's predictable. Your brain loves predictability. It would rather repeat a familiar, miserable routine than risk an unfamiliar opportunity. That's why change feels uncomfortable, even when it's good for you. Every time you try to improve your life, your brain interprets uncertainty as danger. It whispers, maybe tomorrow. Don't embarrass yourself. What if you fail? What if people judge you? Those thoughts aren't proof you shouldn't act. They're proof you're stepping outside the cage your mind has built. And cages rarely look like cages when you've lived inside them long enough. Think about every meaningful moment in your life. Your first day at school, your first interview, your first presentation, your first relationship, your first big decision. You were probably nervous, maybe even terrified. But after you took the first step, what once felt impossible slowly became normal. That's how growth has always worked. Not by avoiding discomfort, but by walking through it. The people you admire aren't fearless. They simply stopped waiting for fear to disappear. They learned to move while fear was still walking beside them. And that's the difference. Because courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision that something else matters more. The life you want will always exist on the other side of the actions you're avoiding. Not because life is unfair, but because growth always asks for movement. So if you've been waiting to finally feel confident, to finally feel motivated, to finally feel ready, maybe you've been waiting for the wrong thing. Maybe you don't need another motivational video. Maybe you don't need another productivity app. Maybe you don't need another perfect plan. Maybe
You just need one small decision, one action, one promise that this time you'll actually keep. Not because you're suddenly motivated, but because you're tired of watching your future slip further away. Remember the sports car. It never lost its engine. Remember the river. It never needed perfection. It only needed to flow again. And remember this, you are not broken. You are not incapable. You are not doomed to stay exactly where you are. You have been standing still, and standing still can make even the strongest person forget how powerful they really are. But the moment you move, even if it's only one step, everything begins to change. Momentum replaces hesitation. Action replaces overthinking. Confidence replaces doubt.